we are approaching the baptism and stuff. Okay, we are on Luke 3b. When I was demonically attacked as a child, well, let's go back. So a lot of these people who are practicing this today and promoting this today, the number one thing they love to say is if you encounter frightening entities while you're in the astral, or while you're on a DMT trip, or while you're on, whatever trip, drugs, ayahuasca, right? And you're in this other realm and you're experiencing these quote unquote entities and they're negative. Well, that's just your own fear that has been put into you over years and years and years through religion and society. And so those are just your subconscious fears manifesting in front of you. And I have a really hard time with that argument. It tells me that these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. Okay, you are more than welcome to start off by pausing and reading our 12 rules of reading biblical text. And if you don't like the 12 rules, well, this isn't the place for you. If you don't understand the 12 rules, go listen to the audiobook that is uploaded on this channel, because I don't have time to go over it every time. It's our Bible study series that go pretty in depth. Warning, we're not language watching people. We're very salt of the earth, down to earth. It also does not follow the politically correct patterns of modern preachers and teachers. So if you're looking for that, also definitely not the place for you. I also do a lot of referring back to a book that I wrote and read aloud on this channel, that sort of takes you through the entire arc. So if I refer back, chances are I'm referring back to things in that book that you haven't listened to. So if you're confused, try that. And we also did a video where we went, it's short, but we kind of went through our cast of characters here and how all of these modern figures play into the biblical narrative. And we did this so that things could sort of, stick in people's heads about who all of these people are and what their roles are. So if you're confused, go see that.
And also, of course, I still feel like I'm working for him. It's his band. I work for him, My turn, huh? A few disconnected thoughts, right?
Where I had gone through decades of abuse from entities that I couldn't see, and paranormal shit flying in the house, growling walls, all that, right? All the paranormal, we'll call it poltergeist activity in every single house. I mean, I moved. If you've known me for a long time, you also know that I've moved about 37 times in 50 years. That's a fucking lot. Okay, I mean, I moved. Until baptism, every single one of my houses was haunted. Okay, so after a dozen or so homes in different states, you quickly begin to realize that it's not the house, it's you. So whatever these things were that were causing this poltergeist activity and terrorizing me and my nannies and my boyfriends and family members and neighbors and my children, you very quickly realize it's me, right? And are these the same things that are just waiting in the wings because they're the ones when I was a kid who were devouring my soul? And I was pretty convinced that my life, at the end of my life, whenever that would be, I was going to pass into soul death. That was guaranteed to me at a very, very young age. That there's nothing I could do. We have you and you're fucked. So as I grew older, that's when I started to rebel and go absolutely fucking crazy and do stupid shit because I didn't care. I knew where the end of the rope was, right? So it didn't fucking matter. You think it'd go opposite, like I'd be really ginger, but no, I was like, fuck it. I was a fucking hellion. Because, I was already being destroyed, so why be good, right? Have as much fun as you can. Fuck them.
You survive.
Well, because I knew that I was nowhere near doing that. It was just that everybody shouldn't do what I did. You know, and the only thing you can do is like know yourself. To me, I was nowhere near a danger. I mean, if I'd have thought I was, believe me, I want to stay alive. You know, I mean, there's no way I was going to croak for some dope.
A lot of modern New Agers, occultists, who are into this astral projection shit and victimizing kids and different people through this astral projection shit. It's very Masonic. The OTO, the Golden Dawn, all this Blavatsky, Aleister Crowley, occult shit. When I was demonically attacked as a child, well, let's go back. So a lot of these people who are practicing this today and promoting this today, the number one thing they love to say is if you encounter frightening entities while you're in the astral, or while you're on a DMT trip, or while you're on, whatever trip, drugs, ayahuasca, right? And you're in this other realm and you're experiencing these quote unquote entities and they're negative. Well, that's just your own fear that has been put into you over years and years and years through religion and society. And so those are just your subconscious fears manifesting in front of you. And I have a really hard time with that argument. It tells me that these people don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I mean, my parents aren't fucking occultists, right? That are doing seances in the basement and, part of Masonic lodges. That's not my family. Because I started astral projecting at an age long before I was taught anything about heaven and hell.
You've never scared of being too close to
death?
death?
I've been scared of dying. I mean, I've seen it come and go. I've left the building. I've left the house. I've watched myself.
My family's not upper crust elitist, nor are they occulty, new agey people. They're very salt of the earth folks. And I was very young, and I didn't have the imagination of demons with clouded black dark wings feeding and beating you and feeding on your soul and dragging your soul to a place where they were going to extinguish it. So from a clear understanding that when you did a physical death, the soul was able to be devoured and extinguished. Okay? Now, if I had gone to church and been church indoctrinated, I would have been afraid of heaven and hell. I wasn't afraid of going to hell. I've never been afraid of going to hell. I've been afraid of absolute soul death because that is what was taught to me by the demons that attacked me. They were after killing and extinguishing the soul itself.
But I mean, it might. I mean, maybe if you do die, maybe then it just goes. I don't know.
I wasn't put through, a lot of church doctrine, learning about angels and demons, and then all of a sudden, all of my heaven and hell church scary murderer things came at me. And stood there until black-winged evil bat things ate my soul out. Like, I have nowhere to come up with these ideas as a 3, 4, 5-year-old child. I was with my easy bake oven and, my jump ropes. So I reject that wholeheartedly. That the things you see in that realm are absolutely necessarily just, well, you just your own imagination. No, it isn't. I was there.
Several times. There's another story. But it didn't happen, so I came back in, But what I find is that you leave. If you're really scared, you ain't even there. You're watching from above, which is an interesting sort of piece of information to have.
For sure.
So I got fed up. I got extremely fed up. I went into breakdown. It took a long time to wear me down, but it happened in 2018, and it's very difficult for me to speak of, but let's just say I had a complete mental, emotional, and physical breakdown. And I was absolutely spiritually bankrupt. I had tried every possible Christian religion under the Christian umbrella. and found them all lacking and not helpful. I looked at quantum shit. I looked at new age shit. I looked at drug shit to try to find the trail to these entities that were harassing me. Couldn't figure it out. And I would always pray, but unfortunately I was praying to the Trinitarian God that I was taught as a child through life.
Now I'm because you is just a neat child. I'm not there. Oh yeah. What's like that?
In my personal experience, and in the Bible, in the New Testament, Jesus the man brings you back to David. So I went, okay, if I need to understand Jesus the man, and over to James, his brother. So I went deep first into David. And I rooted all this out. And then I went up to James. Well, we haven't quite gotten there yet. We're on a windy path. But I think if I started you with David, it would have knocked your head off.
This is it.
And you know, I have so much trouble articulating this because my experience with Team David, we call it, is a lot different than most people's little supernatural experiences they have. You know, when you learn David coming out of, you know, decades of trauma from the demonic entity realm, it's not so frightening, right? Like, you know, what's going to happen? Like, demons are going to keep come and eat my face off if I question the church doctrine. Sorry, too bad, so sad. Demons already tried to eat my face off. So, like, I'm not scared, right? So when I run into David, it's comforting for me, not scary. But I could see, like, normal people that don't have that decades-long supernatural, astral, demonic, poltergeist trauma might see David a little bit differently. You know, where they're in a field or a meadow and they get a big hug. Like, that was not my experience. Because I had been attacked since first memory, right? We've been through all this. So when I finally dialed the right number, okay.
Huh? I mean, I know you're working through some shit, the worst kind of shit, I know. But if you aren't the most stubborn know-it-all prick I've ever crossed dicks with.
Team Jesus of the House of David, they have legal jurisdiction, period. So there's no hugs and light and pretty messages. There's literal, like, SWAT team fucking extraction. So I'm in the astral. There's the goofy dudes trying to recruit me. Like, all this stuff's happening. And I dialed the right number, and it was just like, well, bam, gone. Like, it was surgical. And there was no apologies. There were no introductions. There was no fluff. It was just jurisdictional override, frickin' done. Like, these guys are on a mission, and they activate, and it's handled. Like the Taken guy. Like, I'm going to get you, and I'm going to get my people back. Like, that's what it is.
Speak when you're spoken to! You answer to me. You provide for me.
Provide for you.
You belong to me. Right.
Right.
And when you you encounter that much power, authority, certainty, and jurisdictional override of anything that can mess with you. We're talking poltergeist activity. I see these people whining and crying and whimpering on TV about poltergeist stuff. Well, yeah, I was there too. Until you meet the SWAT team of David. The House of David doesn't play. And that's like, I'm standing with these guys. Those are my guys. Because nothing is going to fuck with you when you're in the House of David. Not only because they are fierce and loyal and move like a well-oiled freaking Navy SEAL team in the spiritual realm and on earth, but because you walk out of that covenant, you are now shark bait to all the false kingdoms and false gods and entities and demons and what have you out there and all the deceptions. I'm not leaving my covenant because these guys aren't hippy dippy flower dudes. These guys are straight badasses.
That is the look I wanted to see.
We did it. All of us. Together.
Even the dead guys on the ground. Hell, they get the Spirit Award for sure. Today was a productive damn day.
And what they don't have tolerance for is attacks on their people, and they don't have tolerance for worshiping false gods. So if you join the kingdom of David and take on that covenant, oh, you're going to war with them, period. That's how it is. You're now the remnant, and you're going to fight against all falseness, and that's just how it is. You can't be a wussy in the kingdom of David. It's not going to happen. And to be quite frank, how dare you pray for anybody without their permission? How dare you baptize anybody without teaching them what frickin' God and what frickin' covenant you're putting them into? And you know why you don't? Because you can't. Because all you know is 10 little verses that your preachers tell you over and 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 over. And 98% of them are Saul of Tarsus. That's why. You don't know what God you worship. That's not informed consent. So you know what? Don't pray for me because I'm not interested in your janky ass God. Okay? I'm not interested. I have my covenant. My God's bigger than your God. I followed your God for more than 4 decades. He didn't do shit. Sort of like the Jesus Paul preached didn't do shit either, except leave him with an angel of Satan in his flesh and beat the shit out of the exorcists who prayed in the name of the Jesus Paul preached. Yeah, they got their asses beat. So I'm not interested in that God. I'm interested in the God of the house of David, and that's not yours. For more than 4 decades, your janky ass preachers wouldn't even admit that the supernatural exists. Never mind help. And you know why? Because they're invoking the enemy. That's why. Your janky ass preachers are faithful to the enemy, and your prayers are strengthening that. Dipshits. You're following Paul's light in the desert. That's not the son of David. No wonder they don't talk about it. No wonder they can't help you. They're on the wrong team in the wrong covenant. Your savior, Paul, with his little light show in the desert, taught that it's okay to eat food sacrificed in idol temples. Well, let's go back to the 1st century, guys. 1st century occult, that's called tableship covenant or tableship fellowship. Okay? In an ancient occult and modern occult, sharing a meal is coming into covenant. So the demons that inhabit the idols in those temples, they used to have rituals. They would do blood rituals. They would do sex magic. They do all sorts of janky shit to summon the demons to go into the idols, kind of like the Annabelle doll, okay? And then they would sacrifice the food to the idols in the temple and then eat in tableship covenant with those demons. What the hell? And Paul said that's okay. James said it wasn't in Acts. Paul said it was okay all through his letters. As long as you're strong, it's okay. It depends on your conscience. Blah, 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 blah. Don't worry about it. Eat the fucking Moloch meat. And then Jesus comes back in Revelation and tells you not to do it 3 fucking times. Well, what do you think happens to those covenants? You think they magically just disappear when the whole church is following the entity that taught you to make covenants with frickin' demons? You think those covenants just go away? Or do you think maybe they get slapped onto kids, babies, during their baptism? What do you think? Because I'll tell you what I think. So don't you dare pray for me. It wasn't until I don't want to say I erased Jesus from the question, because it's exactly the opposite. But what I did is I got very specific, and I basically, in absolute desperation, I was screaming in fear and pissing myself in the corner at this point. And I just asked God if he was real, to get this off of me. And I was going to use his son's name to do that. And if this is real, you better fucking do it now. Like, this is it. I'm done. And whoever you are and whoever your son is, I'm going to count on you to keep your promise, because I've been told that if I call on this name, it's going to work. And I don't know who this name is and how he's related to you. And I don't know who you are.
To be safe, so far as I'm concerned, God is on probation. You know, I'm not too sure about it. But at the same time, I acknowledge his existence. You know, but sometime him and me are going to have a good talk, you know. And I look forward to that, you know.
And so this was my probationary measure with God. And I didn't bring my preconceived notions to this baptism. I went to God in desperation, absolutely spiritually bankrupt, and asked him to show me his power and who he was. And I'm like, if you are who they say you are, you better fucking do something, better fucking move on this one. And then I baptized myself and made a covenant with God. And I did it in the name of his son, Jesus Christ, man of Galilee, son of David. That's what I did. And everything stopped. I did not understand the fine print of the covenant at the time I had taken this covenant. Had I understood the fine print, I might not have done it. But I did not understand the fine print of the covenant. So that's sort of what I'm trying to clear up for you today.
And any little inner demon saying, come on, try me.
Yeah, but, you know, maybe that's when I mastered him, and now he does as he's told, you know. Maybe that was up until that point, he was running the show, and I was doing what I was told, you know, but that's when I mastered him. You know? Gotcha, and then he's going to stay there.
But the first step is to know which God you're speaking to. And if you don't know which God you're speaking to, ask him to show you. That's the first thing. The second one is know what son you're speaking to. Because the son, God's son, the man of Galilee, the house of David, is not the Trinitarian eternal son. They are two different entities. They are two different beings. And thus two different gods. And so be very careful.
Likely to die for many years. But that was, yeah.
Does it make you feel more mortal?
Mortality, yeah, it does, actually, to tell the truth. Yeah, it does.
I went to God himself and said, in the name of your son, in the blood at the cross, I don't know who you are and how this works, but that's who I'm going to. I'm calling that name because that's the name that stopped my astral attacks. So whoever the fuck that was, I want to talk to that guy. I said it just like that. I was like, whoever the fuck that guy was that knocked those entities off me in the astral realm, that's who I want to. I want him and his God. That's who I want.
I mean, well, I know how long my string is, but I'm prepared to face the maker.
And I have not had anything since that night. And then I went into my own shower in my own bathroom by myself, and I prayed, and I baptized myself and entered into a solemn covenant with God. And I have never had a single incidence of astral projection, sleep paralysis, nor poltergeist activity in my life since.
But, hell, I can live with it.
Not what you expected at the outset.
No way.
Are there any regrets between here and those days?
No, you never should regret anything, because even the worst things that happen to you, you can use for your own education advantage.
So there's that. Like I said, you can find all kinds of research and articles one way or the other on Matthew 28, and we're not even reading Matthew, so we're not going there. But just know that's the only verse in the entire Bible that calls for a command of a Trinity baptism, and that becomes a problem. That becomes a problem. let's go back. The reason that becomes a problem, well, let's go to Matthew 28. Let's just do it. We're going to look up, share this tab instead. We're going to do Matthew, and I'm going to show you why. Okay, Matthew 28:19 says, "Go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit." And this passage is often called the Great Commission. So you're supposed to go out and, spread the word and spread the good news, right? And when you're preaching Jesus, you got to baptize them. And this is the direction that the church has chosen to take. The problem with this is not only that this verse is contested, to say the least, but if this was Jesus's final command, the apostles failed miserably. Because we have about 17 other verses in the Bible about baptism. And not a single one of them does it like this. So if Jesus told his apostles, go and make disciples of all nations and baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, nobody's baptizing in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. All through Acts, all through anywhere, you don't see anybody baptizing this way. They're baptizing in the name of Jesus Christ alone, and we see that in like a dozen fucking places. So the question becomes, well, why aren't they following his direction if this is what they're supposed to do? Well, my answer is, well, because this wasn't really the direction. It was a direction jankified in there later by Rufinus.
Yeah, and me and the Lord. Yeah.
You've talked.
Yeah, we're on good terms.
Energy. Energy. You cannot fuck with this. Energy. You cannot fuck with this energy. Love to all those in the session, all of those who are listening. Don't miss the message, judging me. You cannot fuck with this energy. Energy.